guys.
Let's go.
Wow, look at that.
Beautiful.
Look at that. Just give him a little taste.
Welcome to Now Documentary. On the afternoon of the incident, conservative American activist Charlie Kirk was speaking at Utah Valley University. Not long after the event began, a gunshot rang out. A single bullet struck Kirk in the neck. Panic immediately swept through the crowd as people screamed and fled in all directions. Although he was rushed to a nearby hospital for emergency treatment, news of his death soon broke and dominated the front pages of major U.S. media outlets. Charlie Kirk was born on October 14, 1993, in Chicago, Illinois. His father was an architect who had participated in the construction of Trump Tower. His mother was a former trader at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and later became a mental health counselor. Kirk showed early signs of political engagement and leadership during high school. He once organized a student campaign to oppose a price increase on school cafeteria cookies, and he wrote an article for a far-right media outlet accusing high school textbooks of liberal bias. That article led to his first appearance on Fox Business Network at the age of 17. In 2010, while still in high school, Kirk volunteered for Republican Mark Kirk's Senate campaign, and his political views continued to shift further to the right. After graduating, he applied to the United States Military Academy at West Point, but was rejected. He later enrolled at Harper College near Chicago, only to drop out after one semester, not due to academic failure, but because he had a different priority, founding his own non-profit organization, Turning Point USA. In 2012, during a Youth Empowerment Day event, Kirk met Bill Montgomery, a Tea Party-backed legislative candidate more than 50 years his senior. Montgomery encouraged Kirk to commit to politics full-time. In an effort to compete with liberal organizations such as MoveOn.org, Montgomery and Kirk co-founded Turning Point USA. The organization's mission was to promote conservative ideology among young Americans and strengthen right-wing influence on college campuses. During the 2012 Republican National Convention, Kirk met one of the most influential figures of his career, Foster Friess. Known as a legendary growth stock investor and one of the Republican Party's most important donors, Friess wielded enormous political influence. Through persistent lobbying, the young Kirk persuaded Friess to join Turning Point USA's advisory board, securing substantial funding and access to powerful networks. From that point on, Turning Point USA hosted large-scale annual events, including student action summits, youth leadership conferences, and America Fest. However, the organization's tactics became increasingly controversial. In 2016, it launched a professor watch list, naming academics accused of discriminating against conservative students or promoting left-wing ideology in the classroom. During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021, the organization introduced a school board watch list, publicly naming board members who supported mask mandates. Turning Point USA also intervened in student government elections, seeking to counter liberal influence on college campuses. These actions sparked intense backlash. Critics, particularly on the political left, argued that the organization was effectively engaging in doxing and intimidation. As a result, many U.S. universities and high schools refused to recognize Turning Point USA as a legitimate student organization. At this point, a brief clarification is necessary. Personally, I am not particularly interested in politics. Before researching this case, I could not even clearly distinguish between America's two major political parties, let alone their complex ideological differences. However, my interest in violent crime, and in the shooting of Charlie Kirk, made it necessary to understand this political background. For viewers who are also unfamiliar with US politics, these details may feel tedious, so the following explanation will remain as basic and simplified as possible, focusing only on what is essential to understanding the case. In the United States, the political landscape is dominated by two major parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, broadly associated with left-wing and right-wing ideologies. The Democratic Party is generally considered progressive or liberal, with presidents such as Clinton, Obama, and Biden representing this camp. The Republican Party is generally conservative, with figures such as Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk aligned with it. The ideological divide between left and right is significant, but not a matter of absolute right or wrong. It is often compared to personal preference. Some people prefer rice, others prefer bread. Both choices have their own logic. The political left emphasizes social equality, expansive welfare policies, and protections for minority groups. Concepts such as diversity, equity, and inclusion, often abbreviated as DEI, are central to left-wing ideology, advocating gender equality and strong support for women and non-white communities. The political right, by contrast, emphasizes procedural equality and formal fairness. Kirk, for example, argued that elite universities such as Harvard unfairly disadvantaged white applicants by allowing minority students to gain admission with lower academic scores. He believed that if society claims to value equality, admissions should be based strictly on merit, without considering factors such as poverty or social disadvantage. In his view, emotional considerations should be excluded from standards of fairness. On ethical and cultural issues, the left prioritizes individual freedom, supporting same-sex marriage, abortion rights, and bodily autonomy. Conservative figures like Kirk, however, argued for adherence to biblical teachings, opposing abortion, LGBTQ rights, and gender-affirming surgery. Economically and nationally, the left tends toward globalism, welcoming immigrants and adopting relatively sympathetic stances toward undocumented migrants, including programs that delay deportation and, in some cases, provide pathways to citizenship. Conservatives such as Kirk and Trump took a hardline stance, arguing that illegal immigration undermines social stability, displaces domestic workers, and must be strictly curtailed, often accompanied by strong nationalist rhetoric, such as Trump's repeated slogan, "Make America Great Again." Critics on the left argued that such slogans, while emotionally charged and patriotic, echoed elements of fascist or white supremacist ideology. Despite ongoing controversy, Kirk and Turning Point USA successfully attracted significant attention from young people, eventually becoming one of the most influential conservative youth organizations in the United States. In 2016, at just 23 years old, Kirk became the youngest speaker ever invited to address the Republican National Convention. That same year, his relationship with Donald Trump grew increasingly close. Both men belonged to the conservative camp, and Trump was eager to expand his influence among young voters. Their interests aligned, and cooperation followed naturally. By the time of the shooting in 2025, Kirk had led Turning Point USA to establish chapters in more than 2,500 colleges and high schools across the United States, with total membership exceeding 250,000. The New York Times described the organization as the most representative conservative youth movement in the country. During Trump's second presidential campaign, Kirk played a crucial role. According to Vice President J.D. Vance, much of the administration's success was due to Kirk's organizational and mobilization abilities. He not only helped secure victory in 2024, but also assisted in assembling the entire government. To many young supporters, Kirk was less a traditional politician and more a political influencer. He maintained a personal blog and a YouTube channel, and he frequently traveled to college campuses to give speeches. His slogan was, "Prove me wrong," encouraging students to challenge him in open debate. Some of his speeches were reviewed for this case. Initially, the goal was to highlight only his most extreme or controversial remarks, but it quickly became apparent that nearly all of his core positions were polarizing. During the COVID-19 pandemic, in discussions about border control, he repeatedly referred to the virus as the China virus, stating that if borders could be controlled while the virus spread globally, the United States would still have a chance. Donald Trump later adopted the same terminology. According to BBC reports, Kirk was temporarily banned on Twitter due to repeated dissemination of misinformation related to COVID-19. his stance on abortion was particularly controversial. Kirk argued that under no circumstances should abortion be allowed, asserting that abortion was equivalent to murder. When confronted with a hypothetical scenario, asking whether he would force his own 10-year-old daughter to give birth if she were raped, Kirk answered affirmatively. Kirk was also a firm supporter of the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1791, which guarantees the right to bear arms. On April 5, 2023, during a speech in Henderson, he stated that accepting a certain number of gun-related deaths each year was a reasonable price to pay to protect God-given rights, calling it a wise trade-off. Critics argued this implied that lives lost to gun violence were acceptable collateral damage. Supporters countered that Kirk meant any system involves costs, just as legal systems inevitably produce wrongful convictions, but that the overall benefits justified the risks. In January 2024, on The Charlie Kirk Show, he remarked that if he saw a black pilot, he would hope the pilot was qualified. In 2025, while discussing Taylor Swift's engagement, he commented that she should abandon feminism and listen to her husband, asserting that she was not meant to be the decision-maker. Such remarks were not isolated. Kirk also openly criticized civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. At a Turning Point USA conference in December 2023, he referred to King as terrible and not a good person, and he opposed the Civil Rights Act of 1965, which prohibits discrimination based on race, religion, sex, or national origin. Kirk argued that the act created a permanent bureaucracy dedicated to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, which he viewed as a harmful left-wing ideology. His logic framed modern liberal institutions as an extension of what he believed to be fundamental flaws originating in the civil rights movement. In February 2024, while discussing the death penalty, Kirk suggested that executions should be public, swift, and televised, arguing that exposure to such events could serve as moral education for children and reduce crime rates. He also rejected transgender identity, describing it as a mental disorder requiring treatment, and cited biblical passages to argue that gender nonconformity was an offense against God. Although Kirk appeared confident and well-versed across many topics, careful examination of his debates revealed consistent patterns. He frequently reframed questions, interrupted opponents, used rhetorical counter-questions, and shifted the burden of proof onto others. Often, he avoided directly answering questions, instead redirecting the discussion and forcing his opponents into defensive positions. This tactic proved particularly effective against inexperienced college students. However, not all debates went in his favor. In one notable exchange with 20-year-old Cambridge University student Tilly Middlehurst, a political science major and vice president of her university's debate society, Kirk's usual strategies proved less effective. Although Middlehurst spoke rapidly and relied on notes, her arguments were methodical and well-researched. Kirk appeared to circle around her questions without directly addressing them. Despite this, he later uploaded the debate to his own YouTube channel, suggesting a degree of confidence and resilience in the face of opposition. In the fall of 2025, Kirk launched what he called the American Revival Tour, with his first campus stop at Utah Valley University. At 12:07 p.m., approximately 3,200 students gathered at the event site, chanting his name before he appeared. Kirk's private security team was present, along with 6 police officers, including plainclothes personnel. These precautions later proved insufficient. At 12:09 p.m., Kirk entered the venue, waved to the crowd, and tossed Turning Point USA promotional caps to attendees. At 12:11 p.m., he sat down with a microphone and began speaking. He referenced Mormonism and Utah's conservative cultural environment, establishing immediate rapport with the audience before taking questions. The first question came from 24-year-old businessman Henry Dells, who asked religious questions for several minutes. The second questioner, Hunter Kozak, a Utah Valley University undergraduate and father of 2, raised the topic of transgender individuals and mass shootings. He cited statistics showing that only 5 out of approximately 6,000 mass shootings over the past decade involved transgender perpetrators. Kirk responded with a rhetorical question. Do gang shootings count? This was the final sentence he spoke before a gunshot rang out. A bullet struck his neck, and he collapsed backward onto the stage. After the gunshot rang out, panic immediately erupted across the scene. People screamed and ran in all directions. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital as quickly as possible, but several hours later, he was pronounced dead. That evening, major U.S. media outlets broke the news. This marked a new chapter in American political violence. Kirk had previously joined J.D. Vance's campaign team in 2022 and played a key role in helping Vance win his Senate seat. The two maintained a close personal relationship. After the shooting, Vice President Vance immediately cancelled his scheduled engagements, flew back to Utah, and personally arranged for Kirk's body to be transported home aboard Air Force Two. He later posted a lengthy tribute to Kirk on X. Following the assassination, multiple agencies, including the FBI, U.S. Marshal Service, and local police, launched a joint investigation. Utah Governor Spencer Cox released surveillance images of the suspect and announced a $100,000 reward. Surveillance footage showed that at 12:23 p.m., a dark figure was seen running across the rooftop of the Western Center building at Utah Valley University. The individual moved toward the northeast corner of the roof and dropped a screwdriver while descending, believed to have been used to remove the rifle's scope. Like a scene from a spy film, the suspect jumped from the rooftop onto the grass below. His leg appeared briefly injured upon landing, but he quickly recovered and continued running north, crossed the road, and disappeared into a nearby residential area. Police released multiple images of the suspect, a slender young white male wearing a blue cap with a triangular logo, a dark long-sleeve shirt, jeans, Converse sneakers, and a backpack. His clothing bore an image resembling an eagle and the American flag. By reviewing extensive surveillance footage, investigators reconstructed his movements. Footage showed that at 8:07 a.m. on the day of the shooting, a Dodge Challenger arrived in a residential area near the university. 16 minutes later, at 8:23 a.m., a homeowner's security camera captured the suspect walking toward Utah Valley University. At that time, his outfit differed from later images. He was wearing a dark red short-sleeve shirt and denim shorts. Based on matching physical features, accessories, and backpack, police concluded he later changed clothes. At 11:49 a.m., cameras recorded the suspect again, now wearing the same outfit seen in the shooting footage. His gait appeared abnormal, his right leg was stiff, and he walked with a limp. Investigators believe the rifle was concealed inside his pants at this time, affecting his movement. The suspect crossed campus grounds, passed through a pedestrian tunnel, and paused at the top of the stairs at 11:53 a.m., appearing to check an object resembling a phone. At 12:02 p.m., he was seen near the Low C Center and entered the building through a southeast entrance. At 12:15 p.m., he climbed the stairs toward the roof. At 12:17 p.m., he crouched behind a short wall on the north side of the roof, likely observing the event below. At that moment, Kirk was still engaged in discussion with the first questioner, unaware that the shooter was positioning himself roughly 200 yards away. At 12:22 p.m., 1 minute before the shot, the suspect stood up and ran from the north side of the roof to the western edge, directly facing the speaking area. He adopted a prone firing position. At 12:23 p.m., he pulled the trigger. After firing, the suspect ran across the rooftop, leaving behind handprints, footprints, and the screwdriver. He then jumped down and fled toward the residential area near South 925 Street, where a construction site was located. During a subsequent search, police recovered the weapon in nearby grass. The firearm was identified as a Mosler Model 98-30-06 rifle, equipped with a scope wrapped in a dark towel. Several unfired rounds were found inside. Investigators later revealed that the bullets were engraved with text. Following the release of surveillance images, tip lines were overwhelmed. In less than 2 days, police received over 11,000 tips. Before investigators could fully process them, authorities in Washington County, Utah, made a breakthrough. After seeing the suspect images on television, a woman named Amber Robinson recognized the individual as her son, Tyler Robinson. She called him and asked where he had been the previous day. Tyler claimed he had been sick at home. Suspicious, Amber informed her husband, Matt Robinson, who agreed that the man strongly resembled their son. Matt also believed the rifle shown in the news resembled one he had previously gifted Tyler. Matt asked Tyler to send a photo of the rifle. Tyler did not respond. Matt then called Tyler directly. During the call, Tyler hinted at suicidal thoughts. After prolonged discussion, Tyler agreed to return home to speak with his parents. During the conversation, he implied responsibility for the shooting and stated that he could not go to prison and wanted to end everything. When asked why he did it, Tyler said there were too many evil people and that Kirk spread too much hatred. His parents urged him to surrender and invited a retired police officer neighbor to speak with him. The retired officer contacted police and advised Tyler that bringing evidence to the station would be preferable to a forced search. When asked whether he still had clothing related to the shooting, Tyler stated he had disposed of them in different locations. Inside the police station, Tyler's parents fully cooperated with investigators. They stated that both of them were Republicans and strong supporters of Donald Trump. However, their eldest son Tyler was very different. Amber explained that over the past year, Tyler had become increasingly interested in politics and had gradually shifted further to the left. More specifically, Tyler began identifying as gay and showed strong interest in transgender rights. She knew that Tyler had started dating his male roommate and that the roommate was attempting gender transition. The parents said they had discussed this with Tyler multiple times. During one of their recent conversations, Tyler mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be giving a speech at Utah Valley University. He described Kirk as someone who spreads hatred and said that choosing that campus as the venue was extremely stupid. Despite their cooperation, Tyler himself refused to provide any details about the case. Tyler Robinson, aged 22, was the eldest of 3 children with 2 younger brothers. He was born into a traditional Mormon family in Utah. His father, Matt, operated a local kitchen countertop and cabinet installation business, while his mother, Amber, worked as a social worker. Photos online showed Tyler frequently traveling with his family and participating in outdoor activities, including a family trip to Mexico in 2023. In a 2017 post, Amber shared images of the family attending a military recruitment event where Tyler, then a high school student, was photographed holding heavy machine guns and even anti-tank rocket launchers, posing in various stances. Tyler attended Pineview High School. Teachers described him as highly intelligent and excellent at time management. He enrolled in a basic automotive course, an introductory technical class teaching students how to repair damaged vehicles. Although generally quiet, Tyler was approachable and enjoyed spending time with classmates in the school's auto repair club. His yearbook quote read, "Math makes way more sense than English." Amber later posted proudly about her genius son being accepted into college. Photos showed Tyler had achieved a perfect 4.0 GPA in high school. That year, he was awarded a presidential scholarship to Utah State University. To celebrate, Tyler posted a video commemorating the achievement. After the incident, the Utah System of Higher Education released a statement confirming that Tyler James Robinson was a third-year electrical apprentice at Dixie Technical College. He had briefly attended Utah State University during the first semester of 2021 and had earned some college credits through Utah Tech University while still in high school. It remains unclear why Tyler chose to withdraw from Utah State University despite receiving a scholarship and instead enrolled in a vocational program. However, investigators later obtained critical information from his roommate that may help explain his behavior. Tyler's roommate was identified as Lance Twiggs, also 22. The two had lived together for at least 2 years and were in a romantic relationship. Twigs was described as transgender, or in the process of transitioning. Twigs and Tyler met through online gaming. According to Twigs' Facebook posts, he was an avid gamer who frequently played Apex Legends and Rocket League. Friends stated that both were part of the same gaming group, composed largely of Tyler's former high school classmates. Beyond gaming, the two shared several similarities. Tyler had earned college credits through Utah Tech University during high school, and Twigs was a graduate of the same institution. At the time of the shooting, both were working as electrical apprentices. A neighbor named Josh Kemp reported that Tyler and Twigs often played loud music at home, and that Tyler rarely interacted with neighbors. Another neighbor echoed this observation, stating that Tyler and Twigs lived a very secluded lifestyle. Over 2 years, she had spoken to Tyler only twice, and had not noticed anything indicating that Twigs was transgender. The neighbor also noted that Tyler initially lived with 2 male roommates. One of them moved out a year earlier, leaving only Twigs. When questioned by police, Twigs cooperated fully. He told investigators that on the day of the shooting, September 10th, he received a message from Tyler saying, "Whatever you're doing right now, stop and look under my keyboard." Twigs said he lifted the keyboard and found a note reading,
"I have a chance to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to do it."
Twigs immediately messaged Tyler asking if he was joking. Tyler replied, "Honey, I'm okay right now, but I need to stay in Orem a little longer. I won't be gone long. I just need to retrieve the rifle. Honestly, I wanted to take this secret to the grave. I'm sorry for dragging you into this." Twigs asked, "You're not the shooter, right?" Tyler replied, "I am. I'm sorry." The messages showed that Twigs asked why Tyler had done it. Tyler responded, "I'm sick of him spreading hatred. Some hatred can't be forgotten. If no one saw me retrieve the rifle, I wouldn't have left evidence." When asked how long he had planned it, Tyler replied, "A little over a week." He added that he could have retrieved the rifle earlier, but a police car had been parked nearby, and he didn't want to risk it. He expressed concern that if he didn't recover his grandfather's rifle, his father would be suspicious. He worried about fingerprints and said he had to abandon the rifle due to lack of time. Tyler asked, "How the hell am I going to explain losing it to my dad?" He urged Twigs to delete the messages and warned that his father wanted photos of the rifle because his grandfather was asking about it. He said the FBI had already released images of the weapon and that his father was calling him repeatedly, which he ignored. Tyler wrote, "Since Trump came into power, he's been nothing but MAGA. I'm going to turn myself in. One of my neighbors is a cop. You're the only one I'm worried about. Please don't talk to the media. If police ask you anything, demand a lawyer and stay silent." Twigs later showed investigators additional conversations exchanged on Discord. After the shooting, Tyler logged onto Discord and chatted with gaming friends in a group of about 20 people. His profile picture was Flying Cat Owner John. At the time, the FBI had already released suspect images. One friend posted WYA. Tyler joked that someone who looked just like him had gotten him into trouble. Another friend joked that Tyler had killed Kirk, while another suggested turning him in for the $100,000 reward. Tyler replied, "Sure, but you'll have to split it with me." He also mocked the FBI investigation, claiming that reports about transgender graffiti on shell casings were fabricated. The messages further referenced Tyler changing clothes after the shooting and the engraved bullets, which matched those recovered by police. Each bullet bore different inscriptions. One bullet read, "Notice, Attack, OWO." The term OWO is an emoticon often used in online gaming culture, commonly referencing surprise or ambiguity, sometimes linked to furry subculture jokes. Given that Tyler's partner was transgender and Kirk was strongly opposed to LGBTQ issues, investigators believe the engraving carried symbolic meaning. Other inscriptions appeared to reference anti-fascist ideology. One casing read, "Hey, fascist, catch," followed by 1 upward arrow, 1 right arrow, and 3 downward arrows. Some theorize this symbol referenced the game Helldivers 2, where activating the Eagle 500 kilograms bomb requires the input sequence upright, down, down, down. Another bullet was engraved with Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao. Lyrics from the Italian anti-fascist resistance song, later adopted during World War II and also featured in the video game Far Cry 6. Another unfired round read, "If you're reading this, you're gay, LMAO." A former co-worker recalled that in 2023, while working with Tyler at High Tech Electrician, Tyler had discussed firearms with colleagues and claimed he once fired a shot accurately at 450 yards. If true, this would explain how he managed to strike Kirk from roughly 200 yards away. Because the case attracted worldwide attention, many media outlets did not wait for official statements from police, the FBI, or prosecutors, but instead circulated unverified information obtained through various channels. Below are several widely spread rumors that need clarification, so viewers can better distinguish misinformation from facts. The first inaccurate claim concerns Tyler's father. The most widely circulated rumor online stated that Tyler's father, Matt Robinson, was a retired police officer with 27 years of experience. While there is indeed a local police officer matching that description, authorities later clarified that this individual is not Tyler's father. The two simply share the same name. The second inaccurate report also involves Tyler's father. Many media outlets claimed that Tyler's father recognized the suspect from news footage and then confronted his son, leading directly to Tyler's arrest. However, official documents from Utah's 4th District Court show that it was actually Tyler's mother, Amber, who first recognized her son as the suspect and then informed her husband. The third inaccurate claim concerns the involvement of U.S. Marshals. When Tyler's parents asked a neighbor, a retired police officer, to help persuade Tyler, some media outlets mistakenly described this neighbor as an active U.S. Marshal or a young pastor. This was incorrect. The neighbor was a retired local police officer, not affiliated with the U.S. Marshals Service, which is a completely separate federal agency. The fourth piece of misinformation relates to Tyler's political affiliation. A screenshot circulated online showing that Tyler Robinson had donated money to Donald Trump. While the screenshot itself was genuine, it later turned out that the donor was a different individual with the same name. According to state voting records, the suspect, Tyler Robinson, was unaffiliated with any political party and had not voted in the previous 2 years. Some individuals even went so far as to manipulate images of Tyler to falsely portray him as a Trump supporter, purely for online attention. 6 days after the shooting, on September 16th, the FBI director confirmed during a press conference that DNA found on the towel used to wrap the rifle, as well as DNA recovered from the screwdriver found on the rooftop, both matched Tyler Robinson. Even without a confession, the surveillance footage, DNA evidence, and multiple witness statements were more than sufficient to support criminal charges. The assassination left Charlie Kirk's wife and 2 children in profound grief, while also prompting broader reflection. As for Tyler, regardless of how strongly one disagrees with Kirk's views or feels wronged, resorting to violence can never be justified. At the very least, Kirk was willing to sit down and debate. He attempted to address disagreements through discussion and communication. Tyler, on the other hand, despite being educated and having received scholarships, chose to believe that if a problem could not be solved, then the person raising it should be eliminated. If every conflict in the world were resolved through such crude violence, one can imagine the chaos that would follow. As a public speaker and political figure, many of Kirk's statements were undeniably radical. Even among conservatives, not everyone agreed with his views. But the world is complex, and so are people. Violence often stems from conflicting worldviews, lifestyles, and deeply rooted ideological clashes. Some see Kirk's opinions as extreme, absurd, or even ignorant, while others find his arguments convincing. This is precisely why American society remains split almost evenly between left and right, neither side able to persuade the other. Supporters believe Kirk genuinely wanted to improve the country, and that he stood firmly behind the principles he promoted. Critics argue that he was merely a skilled performer and propagandist, intentionally provoking controversy to gain influence and advance his political ambitions. Some even accused him of racism and inciting hatred. Ultimately, he may simply have been paving the way for a future presidential run. What he may have overlooked, however, is that US history has seen numerous political assassinations, from civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. to presidents such as Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, as well as attempted assassinations of Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Although Kirk was not a president, he was a key figure within the Republican Party and a close ally of Trump. At just 31 years old, he had already become a prominent political figure. America's widespread gun ownership and lack of strict regulation have undeniably lowered the barrier for attacks on public figures. In 230 years of US history, 47 presidents have served. 4 were assassinated, and 5 survived assassination attempts, meaning nearly 1 in 5 presidents faced an attack. Given that all successful assassinations involved firearms, it becomes difficult to argue that guns and political assassinations are unrelated. Yet Kirk himself publicly stated that gun-related deaths are an acceptable cost of preserving gun rights. It is unlikely he ever imagined that he would soon become part of that cost, a price far heavier than anyone anticipated. His death did not quiet the world. It did not bring reconciliation or deeper reflection between political factions. Instead, it exposed even more disturbing scenes. After Kirk's death, a Secret Service agent named Anthony Bowe posted online criticizing both Kirk and Trump, writing, "If you're mourning Kirk, delete me." He accused Kirk of spreading hatred and racism and concluded with, "Karma. You can run from it for a while, but not forever." The backlash forced the Secret Service director to intervene, issuing a zero-tolerance directive. The agent was suspended pending investigation. In another incident, a teacher played footage of Kirk's shooting in class and openly stated that he felt no sadness over Kirk's death. The teacher was suspended. More cases followed, with individuals disciplined simply for expressing indifference toward Kirk's death. Some argue that respect for the dead should transcend politics. Others counter that freedom of speech is constitutionally protected and that people have the right to express their genuine thoughts. Beyond online arguments, some opponents acted even more aggressively. During a memorial event for Kirk, a 19-year-old named Ryder Corro showed up dressed identically to the shooter, kicked over flowers, destroyed American flags and balloons, and smiled after being arrested. This raises a troubling question. Even if Tyler had not pulled the trigger, would another Tyler eventually have emerged? The ideological battle between America's far left and far right may have only begun, rather than ended, with Kirk's death. So what do you think about this controversial speaker, Charlie Kirk? And about the shooter, Tyler Robinson? Do you believe the conflict between America's left and right can ever truly be resolved? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. As always, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.